This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, truth seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to welcome to the show today, Lindsay McBrayer.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got a very interesting show today. I think we're going to see a little bit of a circle jerk, and hopefully everybody finally understands why I'm even involved with this stuff.
Right.
I wanted to start first with the presentation. I was, of course, awoke, let's just say that, by the introduction of Christina Clow, who is the individual working with David Berkowitz. I did take a look at his military records within the last couple weeks because she was interested in a signature and that said Rosemary's Baby, which I guess he was touted for being a fan of Rosemary's Baby, but that wasn't known until after he was caught in 1977. And these documents were from 1971. So one, I think she was trying to figure out who would have signed Rosemary's Baby on this military record, because she actually subpoenaed them directly, I think, from New York. And Nora, I think she called it, is another type of a FOIA file type information. And it appears on all of these documents. I don't really know the chain of the command of these documents, but I do know that in 1971, when Berkowitz wrote on these documents, that handwriting is very different from the Rosemary's Baby signature. And I detected another word on the documents that said deceased in the mother's area that seemed to match the handwriting of Rosemary's Baby. So question becomes, was that information written in 1971 or at a later date, such as 76 or 77, when his apartment was raided and all his documents were, I'm sure, taken by the police department for the investigation? Or were they actually obtained these from? Because we know the military is generally known for dotting their I's and crossing their T's and making sure that all paperwork is filled out correctly. And this would appear as though on his entry for enlistment that it was not properly witnessed. And then, of course, so maybe even this information was backdated, done after the fact. Let's say the recruiter realized that these areas were missing and then proceeded to fill them out with the word deceased and Rosemary's Baby. But then why sign it with some funky name, you know? I mean, why not just sign it with your own name? So I feel like there's something shady going on there. I really can't put my finger on it. But the real reason that Christina reached out to me was because she was working with David Berkowitz, she wanted to look at Lawrence Kane. She's doing the symbolism in the letters, and she finds that there are significant things about the letters between Zodiac and the Son of Sam murders that were consistent with each other, cult-like stuff. Or kind of instilling that group theory that we're talking about with the Zodiac and with Berkowitz and the Son of Sam murders, which we know he's flip-flopped back and forth. So I guess when he was originally arrested, he declared he was the single shooter, but there were multiple eyewitnesses to different suspects, different vehicles. There were lots of reasons to believe there were more than one person involved. And I believe also there were people caught videotaping one of the murders as for a snuff film that was also involved, which would kind of support the whole group theory.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Right. Everything's a project and you need more than one person.
Yep.
He has since, though, flip-flopped back to he's the lone shooter again. So he went lone shooter, group conspiracy, lone shooter, boom, boom. So now I think she wants me to look at the letters that were written in the Son of Sam murders to determine whether or not there was more than one author involved with them. We'll see if I get there. I already told her I needed, good samples from David that he's willing to accept. And so far, that's kind of been a bit of a pushback from him. And I think that's because he's back on the stance of single shooter theory. I don't really know.
Somebody must be in his ear.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would love to speak with him, honestly. So I'm glad that somebody is still like doing that actively, because I mean, they're not going to be living forever. So,
well, I think that I've at least got her on track with what I've shown her so far to show that there's media involvement in what is going on, and that the biggest benefactors out of these, obviously, aside from whatever agenda they were accomplishing by putting forth these type of projects, was that the media got extremely rich off of all the newspapers that they were selling.
oh yeah.
This.
Well, and not only that, they were able to easily pass laws and get all this stuff done that they wanted to done so easily, because when you manipulate the public, it's easy for them to say, oh yeah, okay, that sounds great.
Right. And we are very impressionable. We tend to believe what's on the news or on the TV. Most people don't see a reason or why the media or Hollywood, let's just say, would want to disinform them. So that's why we have so many people arguing over the morning news. One watched 13, one watched Channel 4, and now, our information's different. Let's have a debate. No, guys, the news is never a reason to debate. They're almost always wrong.
Exactly.
So, I
was going to say also, a lot of it all boils down to emotion. That's how they, get you on their side, and they get you to believe what they want you to believe. And
ethos.
Yes. Yeah, through emotion. And that's literally almost every single time they use emotion in some way, shape, or fashion. So
they can do credibility, they can do statistics, and they can do emotion. And there are three different, those are always employed, I think, all three in any attempt to, start a narrative for the mass public to believe. Yeah. Let's go to the PowerPoint presentation here real quick, because I'm going to tell you what got me on my kick. So basically, my message board is https:// Nanette, B as in boy, forumchitchat.com/. And at one point in time, I had basically gotten rid of everybody that was a member on the board, because there was so much infighting. I couldn't tell who was the trolls, who was legitimately there to, research the evidence. And I kicked off everybody who was just either sitting and staring or, would pop up when I'd come in and put in new information. I saw the numbers immediately jump from myself being the only person on the board to the area of 127 people at one point in time. That literally, the second that I would drop information on that message board, all of these people would pop up to see what I've got. Well, if I'm so wrong, why? Why are y'all popping up?
Yeah.
Either way, I looked at the members just to see what was going on, and I saw a huge amount of people jump on in 2018, obviously, but the one that really kind of caught me off guard said Tom Voigt joined July 2024. Now, I thought his name was VOIGT, so this could be a fake person.
Sounds familiar.
Right? It could be somebody who, Tom Voigt runs the Zodiac Killer website. You know who he is,
that's
right?
what it is. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And he was one of Dennis's adversaries when I first came into contact with Dennis in these cases. He's lied and said things about me personally. I think that at one point in time, he had put up a picture on his message board that showed some girl in the background with Dennis, and he accused them of doing drugs, and he said that the girl was me. Quite frankly, I've never taken a picture with Dennis. I know. And that's what leads me into this whole story with Christina Clow and me making the opinion that handwriting was not done by David Berkowitz in 1971 at a minimum. I told her I needed validated sources of handwriting for when he was arrested to see if at any point in time, when his handwriting matured, if it was possible that he wrote it at a later time, since we do not know how they obtained these documents. She's attempted to get them through FOIA files or through the military, and they say his files are non-existent. So I don't know what's going on there. Either way, she posts what I had to say about this handwriting on her message board, and literally this man named Mike Morford, and you'll know him on the internet as Morph, M-O-R-F, pops up, obviously upset over the fact that she has joined forces with me, which either scares them or he thought he was going to do me in with his nasty little words. And he proceeded to say that Dennis Kaufman and his meth-fueled expert investigation.
What?
Yeah, yes.
Isn't it funny how they always use the drug thing?
They can go wherever they want to go on it. You can take my hair; it's pretty darn long. You can take anything you want, and you'll find no drugs in here. Thank you. Not necessary. I have far too much energy. I would spin straight off my top, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I mentioned to her that I believe that he was indicating that I did drugs. And so he's on there lying, saying that we falsified and fraudulently created pictures and of Jack and handwriting and all of this to suit the case. And so I explained to her that is, at first I had stated that was defamation, but it turns out I was told that was libel. And it's libel per se, because there are three things you can't say about somebody unless they're true. One of them is that they do drugs. The other one is their sexual orientation by calling somebody gay who is not. Or the other one is that they've been to jail or done prison time when they haven't. So these three things go for a per se, which include punitive damages. And this is why I'm bringing it up at this point, is because Mike Morford, listen to me now. I do not. And should I find any other messages on any internet site anywhere where you have indicated or intimated that you thought I did drugs, I'm letting you know that this is not true. This is something I can prove, and you need to discontinue and take down any references to this whatsoever. And that includes Tomboy. Thank you. My rant. Anyways.
I think he has a Twitter account, doesn't he?
Who?
The Morph guy.
Yeah, he's got a website. He's got, he's running his own.
I've seen his page, so yeah.
He's running his own operation on falsifying information and disinformation. So either way, it is Martin Luther King week, and since we are on talking about projects, especially for the last couple weeks, I would like to have permission to read what you wrote me, Lindsay.
Yes, please.
All right, so this was your take on Martin Luther King. There was a journalist that actually covered the riots on this, but he was shut down by media. I don't recall the documentary at this point, but he attempted to produce a story that showed all the rioting and the buildings on fire and the streets on fire and all the things that occurred over the assassination of Martin Luther King, and the news companies shut it down, which doesn't make any sense to me because I believe that they were looking for this agenda. We know that he was a program of the government because they have it in the FOIA files. It was called COINTELPRO, where they were putting this man through everything that one could possibly imagine. But so Lindsay says, by harvesting the energy of people who loved him and mourned because of his death, in which they create symbolism by making him a martyr. So they are always reminded of what they are capable of and how much power they have over the people and others underneath them. Reminds me of a psychopath serial killer, right? Like keeping a symbol of their victims so they are always So they are always reminded, like the holiday created in statues, etc., while fooling the Black people to create a false narrative of peace when they knew there would never be peace, because that's never what they wanted, nor unity. They did this fake racism stuff, and very intelligent once Lincoln freed them from slavery. Then in order to revert what Lincoln did, they create a false race war among the people to take psychological ownership over them. A lot of Black people in present times are waking up to this stuff and cannot believe it, but it's 100% true. It was never caused or created by the normal average white person, but many still believe that it was, and that's exactly what they wanted. A long-term race war, picking sides, white versus Black and left versus right. When we don't take either side, they get bad and create chaos, almost like a parent when they discipline their child or scold their child. That's what they do to try to get us to snap out of it. In the beginning, MLK Jr. was a good man seeking peace, but they fooled him by allowing him in as he wanted to only create peace and love, and turned him into a monster by blackmail, their most favorite tool of all. and used blackmail in retaliation if MLK did not do as they say, which ultimately I think led to his death, which is another Patsy-defined murder as well. I think MLK Jr. saw what they were really doing, but he wasn't allowed to do anything about it. So sad. I will send you an email, the CIA documents on MLK Jr. that was released last year, so you can see what all the FBI and CIA did to him. He was always being watched constantly and almost steadily blackmailed in each step he made, so that way he kept his mouth shut. I thought that was a very succinct expression. Obviously.
Thank you. Sometimes I'll like go ranting on. I feel like I'm like get this long paragraph, and then I go back and read it, and I'm like, wow, did I write that? Like, have you ever done that before? It's like, so I started journaling and writing everything down, like even that stuff in my head, so yeah, I appreciate you reading that.
No, and I appreciate you sending it. Honestly speaking, I do believe that he was a programmed death. These people do not care who they kill in the act of their agendas. They don't care who they affect. They don't care. I mean, just to see the Project Mockingbird and the, Anti-Defamation League and all of these other things, I think that can be attributed to the type of murders that we're seeing, especially as they go unsolved. Mm-hmm. Absolutely mind-blowing. And well, I also heard that there were things that MLK was not a decent person, so it's really kind of who I'm really being led to believe everybody I thought we should appreciate is literally not something we should appreciate anymore.
It's like totally the opposite. It's like your history book in school. It's like total opposite what they tell you.
Right. So we are getting back into Kane now. So Christina Clow brought me back Lawrence Kane as a fake suspect. Of course, I do not believe that she still thinks anymore. Maybe she thinks he's part of the group or program, but I know she doesn't think that he is the Zodiac based on several things. But one of the things I wanted to point out is that last week we were looking at his handwriting, and all of the handwriting said Kane with a K. And then here, this handwriting, which was a produced sample that he obviously had to give, he writes Kane with a C. So it is the first time that we see C-A-N-E for Kane.
Well, I'll tell you about why they do that, because that's just caused more confusion and,
100%. Yeah, all of these multiple names, just like this Marvin Margolis that came out. But I understand why he changed his name. If he was the last person dating Black Dahlia and the media wouldn't leave him alone, I'd certainly change my name too.
Well, there's but when you're doing it multiple times and there's so much differentiality of like every single aspect of your handwriting and your name, then that's indicator,
it's an indicator.
And John Walsh is one of them.
You've lost your ID. Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you look in the ancestry files and like the government, like public files on him and his name and different variations of it, he doesn't like to tell anyone who his middle name is for some odd reason, and his daughter can verify that for anyone. And it's very hard to find his name written in any document with an E, much less his whole entire middle name, Edward. So, and he is also a junior, which no one knows that. But if you look back,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but he doesn't he doesn't tell people that. He doesn't tell people about his middle name, and so then you have all these different variations of it everywhere, and him using it here on this document, not on this one, and then
Well, if he's not using middle names and juniors, then it may be to kind of abscond with his dad's credit rating or information, if you get what I mean. So if he wasn't on the up and up, but dad was, I know that my marriage to my children's father, he was a junior. He was the second, actually, and because 3 items matched up with his information and his dad's information, including the name, it meant that his dad's credit was reporting on his credit report. It showed he was married to his mother and that he had 3 children. So I can see people using that as a way to boost themselves when they don't have anything, but it's not normal for people to be running around with a lack of identity.
And I think also he did it because he wanted to hide his past and like
might have been
his family, which
Right.
makes sense because then when I actually find the family background, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is why he didn't want anybody to see.
All right,
Because,
so let's move on.
yeah,
Let's move on from John because I have a lot to get through right now, and I want to focus because we've been trying to get through Kane and Margolis for a while
perfect.
now.
I know.
To finish off on Kane, it basically, I grabbed some things from the internet, and I want to say this was like zodiacciphers.com or something. It says the prelude to these events, Larry Kane, spelled with a K, suffered a brain injury to his left frontal lobe in 1962 after a serious car crash in San Mateo, California. Doctors diagnosed that he had developed an inability to control his urges for self-gratification and was subsequently arrested several times as a peeping Tom. In the preceding months to the first confirmed Zodiac attack on Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday on December 20th of 1968 in an isolated turnout alongside Lake Herman Road. 3 years after his brain injury in 1965, his prognosis in terms of rehabilitation was extremely poor, and Lawrence Kane was left with facial paralysis on one side of his face. We did not see any facial paralysis in the composite. So again, it's just another reason to check that box off. He would have had a rudimentary knowledge of coding after his brief time in the United
No.
States Naval Reserves. What's that? No? Okay. So along with the
Did you hear
Modesto
me?
abduction of... No, I couldn't.
Oh, I said there's the Navy again. The Navy just keeps coming up too. It's the Navy and
Well,
the
but
Air Force are the
that's
number
because in
one.
this case he was in the Navy. So, but he would have had rudimentary, like they said, he wasn't part of, I guess, ham radio or working the ham radio. So he had some limited knowledge. So, and that was a brief time, it says, in the United States Naval Reserves in 1943. So, along with the Modesto abduction of Kathleen Johns and the Donna Lass disappearance at South Lake Tahoe, did Larry Kane have the means and opportunity to commit the 5 murders at 4 locations attributed to the Zodiac killer? Question mark. There are a lot more circumstantial elements suggested by people that have elevated Larry Kane into the list of widely touted Zodiac suspects, but in truth, the list is filled with many suspects that don't warrant much consideration as the murderer of 5 in the Bay Area. Lawrence Kane is almost certainly not the Zodiac killer. Then it goes on to say Harvey Hines went on to elaborate about his search for Donna Lass, in particular the Pines card mailed on March 22nd of 1971. After studying the card, I drove to Norden, located on Old Highway 40 north of Lake Tahoe, and found the Sierra Club. I learned the club was not called the Sierra Club. It was named the Claire Tappan Lodge, and it was a private club for Sierra Club members only. I believed if I followed the directions on the postcard, I would find Donna Lass's grave. I believe she was buried near the Sierra Club and most likely on Donner Ski Ranch. I would later have the pictures of the Sierra Club developed. Then, using a copy of the Zodiac's card, I cut out the phrases he had pasted on his card. Using these phrases, I overpasted them on the copy of the Sierra Club picture. It was striking similar to the original card. So now we have a point out, right, to more elite people because Sierra Club members only could attend this lodge. That reminds me of like Bohemian Grove and Coconut Grove in Florida. Yeah. So he's pointing his fingers at these people for a reason. Now, this gets me to the response. So when Christina Clow reached out to me and wanted to have Sandy Betts' information, I asked Sandy Betts, I emailed her and asked if I could extend her email address to Christina, and I got a response back from Sandy Betts. And you guys, this is where everything kind of took a full circle jerk on me this last week, because when I realized what I was sitting on, I was absolutely blown away. So it says from Sandy, she says, "Hi, Nanette, I'm okay, but I got another death threat from my suspect on December 1st, 2025. That would make the man like 90 years old if he was the Zodiac. So I'm really like thinking that she's just being messed with. People like to mess with people. I don't know why they do this. But the likelihood
Lawrence Kane is still alive?
No, I don't believe he is. I'm just saying she's saying that she received another death threat on December 1st, though she didn't tell me what that death threat was. She says, I hope all is well with you. Tell the person who likes Kane for a Z suspect that Larry Kane has been proven to not be the Zodiac. Detective Tom Bruton from SFPD went to meet Kane. He got his DNA, prints, and handwriting. Nothing matched. It was Vallejo PD in 1990 who told me the picture I have of my suspect looked like Cain. Darlene's family told me the picture I took who followed and killed Darlene. They thought he was Cain. I wasted 10 years investigating Cain, believing he was my stalker. It wasn't Cain. It wasn't until Cain died and my suspect was still following me that I knew he wasn't Cain. However, they looked a lot alike. So this takes me back to her suspect. If he looked a lot like Cain, and we can visually see that Cain looks nothing like the composite, then then why would she think, well, why would she even continue with the thought process that it's the Zodiac? I don't really understand.
I mean, because that one PD officer stating he looked like him. I mean,
no, he didn't. I think that's lies. I think that is intentional disinformation. I absolutely 100% cannot see folks giving that type of a composite and then turning around and saying that Lawrence King was the most lookalike to the person he saw in the Presidio when it looks nothing like the composite. It's just idiocy. I just think that that's new information they're putting up for those that want to research the case, so they'll be led down the wrong road. That's just what we're used to in these cases. Now, it gets even better because then she goes on to say a guy who has a website, his name is Alex Babber from Philadelphia, from Philly, PA. He sent that letter. So she's referring to one of the communications that she believes she received from her suspect, which she thinks is the Zodiac. She sent this to Alex Babber. He sent that letter that was left for me from my suspect in 1986 to the nation's top expert, Kurt Baggett. I don't know where she gets this information, and maybe years ago somebody called him. I think it might have been something in regards to John Benet Ramsey, and they called him out for calling out a percentage, which he says he never gave a percentage of likelihood that Patsy Ramsey had written the letter. But so he's already being, admonished in the news and the media for having given a percentage that he says he didn't give. But she's calling him the nation's top expert. And then both Baggetts, she's saying. So she's saying Kurt Baggett and Bart Baggett confirmed that the letter from 1986 was written by the Zodiac, ! I cautioned her on this simply because Bart Baggett named Deborah Perez as the likely daughter of the Zodiac. So how can you have both? You can't have it both ways. You got to pick one and be one. That's it. So Sacramento DOJ told my detective that the true Zodiac has a lazy eye. And we see that in Jack's in pictures. So one eye slants more than the other. And she says Honcho has a lazy eye, but still he looks nothing like the composite. I asked Alex to please send me a copy of the document from Baggett. He is always too busy to send it to me. I need it because I want to go to the FBI. I'm tired of these idiot detectives who don't seem interested in the Zodiac case. Now, introduction to Alex Babber. Now, he has facilitated this connection. He's connected now to Bart Baggett and Kurt Baggett. He's now connected to the latest fake suspect that's put out, and that's going to be our bridge to Marvin Margolis. So she has now indicated that Alex Babber believed that this was written by the Zodiac as her suspect, and that the Baggetts also backed this up. And we can already clearly show that Bart Baggett is on the side of Deborah Perez, who was confirmed to not have any likeness, affiliation, belongings that happened in this particular Zodiac case. Step forward, Alex Babber is a 50-year-old West Virginian with autism who claims to have solved the Zodiac and Black Dahlia murders. Identifying Marvin Margolis as the likely killer, he used AI programs and his code-breaking skills to analyze the Zodiac killer's 1970 cipher and cross-reference it with historical records and witness accounts. So now we have him, who has also declared that this letter was written by the Zodiac, now claiming that he has another suspect and he has broke the code. I thought that was extremely interesting because if his first choice was to go to the Baggetts, then that means that there's some inclusion there. That's
what I was just thinking.
Yep, it's a continuation of the conspiracy where Baggett and Voight and now Baggett and Babber and all of these people are putting forth false suspects. So I thought I'd read a little bit of what this Babber guy has talked about. And it says, post is from 2 years ago. Posters trying to claim Marvin was an identity thief who forged marriage certificates to divert investigators. So this looks like it was posted, it says 12 days ago it was posted, but 2 years before this, I think maybe Baber has come out trying to convince people on message boards that Marvin Margolis was actually the Zodiac. It says, personally still not convinced he is Z, and the notion that Z13 was cracked is simply ludicrous. However, the above post was an interesting read and certainly a good suspect for Black Dahlia. And then somebody, Fresh Pepper 88, says, none of you really seem to read the details. AI did not crack the cipher. The guy did it himself. He went through several different rounds, and then he came out with letters, and then he fed those letters into a database using a 1950 census. That was the first time every single person in the United States was listed. It just came out a couple years ago, and AI went through those billions of names to try to find ones that matched those letters. AI is 100% capable of doing that. Initially, it spit out 11 million returns on possible names. He tweaked something. You should be able to tell us more than something, and got it down to 800,000. Kept tweaking it down until he got 35. Then manually, he went through those names himself. Several expert cryptologists are saying his method is solid. So for you amateurs to poo-poo, it really shows a lack of flexibility. Perhaps it will turn out wrong, but considering the fact that so many top cryptologists are saying it's solid, maybe you should adopt a wait and see approach. To keep saying AI figured out the cipher is wrong. All AI did was take the letters that this guy came up with and rifle through names looking for a series of letters that would fit.
Exactly.
And if it's a 1950 census, then I would have to believe, I would have to first substantiate that Marvin Margolis had already changed his name to Margolis, because if it was his previous name, which we'll get to it in here somewhere, it isn't 13 letters. It's only 12, as somebody has put out. So what name was Marvin Margolis listed under in 1950 census? If it was Margolis and not Merrill, that would be 14 characters and not 13. So he shouldn't even come up in the search. So 48, yeah. So it is 14 letters, 14 letters for Marvin Margolis. And if he was said to have changed his name after the death of Black Dahlia, so sometime between 1947 and this 1950 census, he changed his name, he would be at 14 letters, not at 13 anymore, which it was a Z13. So they go on about some more of the code ciphers, and they talk a little bit here about Alex Baber and what he did. It says, let me see, details 22 about the time. February 2nd, Crime HQ hosted a special event with Alex Baber and Jalen Baber of the Cold Case Consultants of America, led by Kelly McClear. I think I probably should look up who that place is, but this is my point with media giving people like this attention over nonsense, when the real suspects or the real evidence that needs to be investigated is being presented on a constant basis through this presentation. And they haven't given Jack near the time that they decide to give these other individuals that turn out being fake, but they get big news. And then when it's retracted and it's said that it was false, it's 2 seconds somewhere, and maybe it's just even a little blurb on the internet. They don't ever go back and give us the same amount of media attention to discrediting the nonsense that these people are putting us through. So he says that although Alex had not known anything about the case before that, I got to see when this says. Finally got involved in March of 2007. What drew him in was David Fincher's Zodiac movie, although Alex had not seen the Zodiac or had not known anything about the case before then. So he's claiming he didn't know anything in 2007. Now I want to know when Sandy Betts gave him that letter and when he forwarded it to the Baggetts. I know that I met Sandy Betts in probably 2009, so there could be an area there of 2 years, but for him to claim that, I want to say she probably submitted it to him much sooner than that, before he claims to known anything about it. It says that evening of Friday, he decided to take a crack at solving one of the infamous ciphers associated with the case. Alex claims that he solved it that evening after 4,527 attempts. His solution gave him a name. I want to know how he knows exactly how many attempts he made.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. Like, what? Did you make a tally for each time on a piece of paper? I mean, possibly.
Well, and here's what's incorrect. They say his solution gave him a name. His solution didn't give him a name. His solution gave him more work to figure out a name. Then it says, next he went online to a forum devoted to the Zodiac killer and posted the name he came up with. So they skip out on this entire AI tweaking of the system, breaking down the names, and then eventually coming up with something. So he went on to the forum devoted to the Zodiac killer and posted the name he came up with. On Sunday, he received a phone call asking, "Do you want to play a game?" After Alex replied no, the speaker said, "I want to compliment you on cracking my cipher." So now we've got the Zodiac calling him up.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, I haven't read that before now. Oh my God.
It's so funny how they still want to play him.
Yeah. A little shocked and freaked out at this point, he says, especially because he didn't know how the caller got his number. Alex said that he didn't want any trouble and volunteered to remove the post from the forum that mentioned the man's name. The caller then went to prove that he knew Alex's full name, place of work, address, and fiance's full name. At that point, Alex said again he'd take the post down and hung up on the caller. Oh, now we're playing on ethos, right? We're playing on people's emotions because it must be the real guy. So you're saying Marvin Margolis reached out and contacted you because you mentioned his name? So somebody's response to that was, "No, it is rubbish. I'm very familiar with the cryptography and have studied this at a high level. It's pseudoscientific nonsense, and there is no way to extrapolate any useful information from Z13. Another person, or same person, says, "Could you share where he describes his method? I would be happy to do a more detailed post explaining why it's rubbish, as I'm not expecting you to just take my word for it. Happy to go into detail if his method is published. If it is not published, well, then there you go." So what if you already have the key, as in the Zodiac having it? Well, Alex Babber's not the Zodiac, so how would he have it? Either way, they go on to talk about different variations of it. So Marvin Merrill was his name when he was dating Black Dahlia. And then it says it was the alias Marvin Margolis adopted. Oh, so Margolis was the name that he had when he was dating Black Dahlia.
Yeah.
And so Marvin Merrill is what he changed it to after her death, but it doesn't say when. It says it was the name he lived under until his death by cancer in Santa Barbara in July 1993, age 68, though this gravestone at Riverside National Cemetery bears the Margolis name. It was the alias. Okay, so he died and was listed as Marvin Margolis, so maybe he never legally changed his name. I mean,
which people do. People
they
do that.
Yeah, well, you're trying to hide, but usually you go the legal route, right? So that you can get an identification card, you can do all of these other things, not simply just be called Merrill, that you live as Merrill. Either way.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's easy to do actually. You just get a new utility bill and say, "Oh, well, this is my," say you did, especially nowadays, it's easier because you can digitally sign up for things and put your fake name in,
Right.
And they don't question it,
Well, there's got to be more to tie in to be able to continue to use that. If you go to work for somebody, I feel like this guy was, maybe he wasn't the real estate agent. Maybe that was Kane. That was probably Kane.
But it could possibly be back then. It was easier, also easier as far as other things, more variety of things too.
Yeah, I would still think that there would have to be some type of legal name change in order to continue to live in existence under a name. Otherwise, people would find you. Let's just say I want to be called Merrill, but my last name is really Margolis. Your information in the system is going to be Margolis, and people can find you. So just because you want to call yourself Merrill, if you're not actively changing that, it's not changed on your credit report. You're not able to use that name in order to get a place to rent or to buy a house or to do all of these things that a normal person would do.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So again, it would be interesting if he had done a legal name change as to when that happened and what this
that's easy to find.
Came up with. Well, if that's easy for you to find, Missy, then you find it. I'm just trying to say he ain't it.
Yeah, I just need the dates. I just need the dates of the variations of where you're in between at, and then just go through the pages.
Oh, well, I never paid attention to Babber, so I got this email from Sandy Betts back in December, before he had published the
Yeah.
article on December 23rd or 25th or whenever it was that he claimed Marvin Margolis, and the media picked it up and ran with it. So I was sitting on this, and when I reread it and I said, Babber, why do I know Babber? Like, again, I'm not going to commit too many people, especially fake people, to my memory, but I was like, I know I saw that somewhere. Where's Babber? And holy crap, if it wasn't the next fake suspect I was going to talk about, I'm like, there's your circle jerk, people. And we can see here to the right, this is the LA Times and Inside Edition that are producing miniature videos on and comments and responses to Black Dahlia and Zodiac cases solved. Like, oh my gosh, absolutely insane. But I'm glad you all hopped on board. Now we know what the media is up to. So looking at this, LA Times, he was Marvin Skipton Margolis, born March 25th of 1925. So his age range is within range. He's 5'9" and 150 pounds. Again, very small to be what we know as the Zodiac. No pot belly, probably no lumber. The glasses that were actually put on here, every picture, and we'll see every picture that I found of this man, he does not wear glasses. Yeah. So these glasses were inserted to make him appear more like the actual composite. He died in 1983.
Isn't that funny? They do it to almost every single one of them too.
Right. Yeah. And then every picture that I find, even driver's licenses, they're not wearing glasses. Purportedly dated Elizabeth Short at 22 years of age in 1946 in Chicago, Illinois. That would have made him, when Elizabeth Short was 22, that would have made him 21. Now, I tend to feel like she was probably dating above him. I mean, as far as she's pretending she's a journalist, she wants to be an actress. Are you really going to just date some random 21-year-old from the Navy? Probably not.
Yeah.
Again, here's more LA Times. So LA Times, very big, and we know LA Times is involved with many things, including one of their investigative reporters was Tom Boyd's father. So whenever I see LA Times jump on this stuff and just start spreading, and then we also see from Reddit, but Reddit is just repeating what LA Times said. Somebody had indicated, I've read everything released so far about Marvin Margolis, and I have to say that this is one of the best suspects I've ever seen. Upon first looking at the image shown, I thought, wow, that's him. But most of the outlets are stating that this image was enhanced. I'm hoping this just means some brightness adjustments. However, the glasses appear to be added on, and it makes me doubt if the image has been altered in a significant way beyond that. And if they are willing to alter this image in a major way, that dishonesty hurts the validity of their claims. I'm certainly open to Margolis being the Zodiac and even the Black Dahlia killer too. Nevertheless, I am eagerly awaiting further evidence beyond what has been made public so far. I think there will need to be a smoking gun here to really close the case, and that just may not exist after so much time has passed. Very well said, people. But he's not it. Now, here's some pictures of Marvin Margolis, Marvin Merrill. And up here, he's calling himself Skip Merrill, right? This is definitely after Zodiac or after Black Dahlia passed. He looks much older. This time frame right here in the military uniform would probably be closer to the age and time frame that he had met and dated Black Dahlia. So now he's going by Skip Merrill. Well, nobody mentioned that. So obviously he's still using Merrill. That means that he didn't change it immediately after she died, because he's definitely much older here. He is missing a lot of hair, but let me see if I can see.
He's still, but see, in these photos, you can definitely tell that he's very petite man.
Very petite, yeah, very, very small. Is a man of many talents. It says what he might mean to Wellington is this, and an entire new enthusiasm for creativity in the arts. He hopes to form a Wellington art something. I don't know. I can't read it. It's so small. Anyways, Margolis, now another person, Warcat Yuzu, says Margolis didn't wear glasses. If you look at the picture of Margolis, you can see that those glasses were drawn on, and not very well, because they stopped short of going over his ears. Laugh out loud. Yeah. And how is Alex able to perceive? how was Alex able to receive a phone call in 2007 from Margolis when he died in 1993? Alex phoned me in 2007 telling me it was Larry Kane who was our suspect, Zodiac, at that time. When someone makes up even one lie, how do you trust anything else he has to say? The Zodiac is not dead. He is very much alive.
Oh my God.
So now we've got two, or at least now we've got two other versions of Alex Babber saying somebody is the Zodiac, and that was completely untrue. So we can't trust a word that this man says. I'm sorry that they put everybody through this. It always gets everyone hypey around me. I get a million phone calls and texts. They solved it again. Again. LA
Well, there's
Times needs to
another
stop
recent one
reporting
coming
on
out.
that. Who?
Did you know that there's another recent guy that came out and said his dad was the Zodiac?
No, which one was that?
God, Mitch. I can't think of his last name. I'll have to send it to you. But it was one of the witnesses that was at Fort Huachuca. I'm sure you've seen the Fort Huachuca stuff.
No.
That Candace Owens has exposed. It's a military base.
Yep. I'm not.
Well, he was a witness there during particular time period when she's investigating Charlie Kirk's case, and he came out randomly apparently and said that he thought that his dad was the Zodiac. And I haven't even went down that hole. I just kind of ignored that and just put it in the back of my head because I was like, no.
Well, if you do get any information on it, we are literally, I feel like this entire podcast is revolved around outing all the fake suspects and the individuals that are putting them forth so that we know not to trust these sites. Now, here's pictures of Margolis with the Zodiac composite. And of course, we can see the differences. And one of the ones that I wanted to actually point out is his ears go straight up, not flared out. And when we look at Jack's, we see Jack's flared out, right? His chin is very pointy versus this very blunt and wide chin with the dimple. I don't even see a dimple in Margolis's. However, we can see the very wide chin of Jack, and we can see the dimple that he has in his chin. So many of these things were taken down properly by Officer Folk, and he was capable of maintaining an image in his mind of what he saw, and he pretty much nailed every aspect as it compares to Jack. I also brought back the Commission Zodiac composite by Sonoma County Sheriff's Don Stripke, done in 1975. I don't know how much guff I got from Tom Voigt's crew and trolls, should I say, not group, but from his trolls about how this particular composite was not drawn by Sonoma County, that it was drawn by somebody else from another investigative reporter, I believe, from a newspaper out east. But somebody's producing in a book that it was actually done by Sonoma County Sheriff's Department. So, I wonder why everybody's confused and quoting the wrong stuff, because there's so much disinformation out there. Now, I did take a look at some of Marvin's handwriting. It was very, very small, what I had to look at. One of the things I did note was this capital letter L that he uses in his handwriting, which is improper, obviously, in the middle of lowercase writing. But I did not note any capital letter L's in the middle of lowercase writing in the Zodiac letters. So right there, that is a significant, unexplainable difference. We would have seen him accidentally drop it somewhere along the lines if, in fact, he was the author, due to the amount and the enormity of the amount of writing that was done in these cases. One thing I saw that obviously everybody was very, very in tune to was the capital letter M made in 2 strokes. Now, you guys, you can make an M in 2 strokes, 3 strokes, 1 stroke. These are not unusual or highly significant values, but what we want to see then is the differences between the way it leans, the length of the legs, because we kept seeing these very long legs with this very shallow. If I was to put a crossbar about here, it's just above half that the midpoint of this M comes down, which is consistent both with the capital M's in Marvin and in Margolis. And we can see that variation, the way that it leans, the direction that the actual points point, all of these are differences. So while the construction is similar, everything else is different.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to bring forth his letter G. So I went back, just like I did with Lawrence Kane, and picked out some of the letters that I did not see occur in the communications. And when we look at this letter G up here in the right-hand corner from Marvin Margolis, you'd be hard-pressed to find that type of G in any of these actual writings. In fact, when the perpetrator or the suspect attempts to write their letter G's in what I would say that type of fashion, you can see how awkward and unusual it looks. It's nothing like what we see going on here. And even the shape of the bull is completely different. So I still look back at these and I look at Jack's and say that, you know, this is Jack's G's. It's not Marvin Margolis's G's for sure. Also with the letter
Well, I always
L,
thought that Jack's G's look like nines.
right, exactly. I've got just a couple seconds here. I should actually be closing out, but here on the letter L, just to be able to finish up this presentation, you can look through here yourself all you want, and you'll be hard pressed to find any L's that actually look this particular shape. As you go through, you do find though that they are all consistent with Jack's letter L's. I did put the M's together so that you could see the M's. Again, major differences. And then this writing was actually found in a box, and it said Elizabeth Marty Merrill 1992, but this doesn't look anything like Elizabeth Short. And supposedly it's covering up what they claim to be damage to the breast, which supports that he was the one that killed her. Well, he could have just mimicked an image that he saw of her. So we'll leave off here. Yeah, we'll leave off here. It looks like we've got diagrams and other things to visit for Marvin Margolis that excludes him. So I want to thank you, Lindsay, for being here. Awesome speak on Martin Luther King and exculping these particular fake suspects. We'll be looking more at this next week as we finish off with Marvin Margolis. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Oh,